A semicolon is used to separate two independent clauses that are closely related. Often, semicolons appear before transitional words like however, therefore, moreover, furthermore, and nevertheless. But semicolons can also be used to separate detailed items in a series. So let's look at a few examples to talk about the different ways semicolons are used. John should enroll in an upper-level sociology class. He has always wanted to join the swim club. Alright, so we see that we have a semicolon here. Now the first thing that we need to look for is whether or not the semicolon separates two independent clauses. John should enroll in an upper-level sociology class. This can stand by itself as a sentence, so we know it's an independent clause. The second part of the sentence, he has always wanted to join the swim club. Alright, this can also stand by itself as a sentence, so we know that it's an independent clause. But what was the second rule for using semicolons? The second rule is that the first independent clause needs to be closely related to the second independent clause. And in this case, the first independent clause says that John should enroll in an upper-level sociology class. But the second part says that he wants to join the swim club. These two things aren't closely related. They shouldn't be separated by a semicolon. They need something a little more final than that. So, how do we fix this sentence? Well, pretty simply. We just change a semicolon to a period and make the second independent clause its own sentence. Here's another example. John should enroll in an upper-level sociology class. He fulfills all the prerequisites, and he is interested in the topic. Alright, so this first part of the sentence, is it an independent clause? Can it stand by itself as a sentence? Yes, it can. So the first part of the sentence, before the semicolon, is an independent clause. He has fulfilled all the prerequisites, and he is interested in the topic. Is this a complete sentence? Yes. So this is also an independent clause. Now, are the two parts of the sentence, the clause before the semicolon and the clause after the semicolon, are these two clauses closely related? Yes. The first part is talking about John should enroll in an upper-level sociology class. And the second part of the sentence tells us why, because he's filled the prerequisites and he's interested. So the semicolon is used correctly in this sentence. Alright, we also said that semicolons can be used to separate items in a very detailed list. So let's look at this sentence. Many important members of the university attended the talk. Dr. Becker, the university president, Dr. Palms, the provost, and Dr. Stout, the dean of students. Alright, so we see that 6 different people attended this talk. Dr. Becker did, the university president did, Dr. Palms did, the provost did, Dr. Stout did, and the dean of students did. But that's not quite what we mean, because the university president is Dr. Becker, the provost is Dr. Palms, and the dean of students is Dr. Stout. These aren't 6 individual people, these are 3 people, and we've also included their titles or their positions. So how do we make this clear? Well, we can use semicolons. We use a semicolon after Dr. Becker, the university president, and a semicolon after Dr. Palms, the provost. We can easily see that these are 3 items in a list, not 6. And the commas that are used are just a way to set off the title of each person from the person's name. Last example. I, however, couldn't find any classes to fulfill my major requirements. Alright? So, Earlier, we said that semicolons are often used before transitional phrases like however, therefore, moreover, nevertheless. So we see this transitional word, and it does follow a semicolon, but this sentence breaks a couple of our other rules for semicolons. It doesn't separate two independent clauses. I cannot stand by itself as a sentence, so I is not an independent clause. And the semicolon is not used in a detailed list, like in our previous example. So this semicolon is used incorrectly in this sentence. It shouldn't be there. So how do we fix this sentence? Well, because the word however is extra information, it's not necessary in the sentence, we can still read the sentence without however, and it makes sense. I couldn't find any classes to fulfill my major requirements. Because it's extra information, we can actually set it off with a comma. I, however, couldn't find any classes to fulfill my major requirements. And that would make the sentence correct.